Hello, I'm Adrian in London.
Hello, it's Kath again in Hong Kong. Hello, everybody.
Last time we met this way to record a podcast, it was just one day before my trials for the GB Senior A. And I have a little update. Unfortunately, I didn't make the team, but I've had a wonderful experience. I've met some wonderful people, made some new friends, and I think I'm in a very good position to start a new campaign for 2026.
So we're continuing the Fly the Flag series, I suppose.
The Fly the Flag series continues, particularly with you because you're still training for your Hong Kong team. So we'll keep an eye on you.
Yes, and we will cover more of your trial and what are you going to do after that in our next episode in the Fly the Flag series. So today, we're not flying the flag. We have a new series again. And the series is actually the ultimate goal of every single dragon boat paddler out there. All we want to do is to win the race. And to win the race, you just need to have the boat go really, really fast. Have it go as fast as you can. And how do we achieve that?
Ripples dance where the sunrise bleeds. Our journey flows where the river leads. Echoes of laughter fill the air. Chatterpot secrets everywhere.
We are finally back to doing what we always wanted to do, which is have some guests on our podcast. And today, our guest is a man who's been training me for the last 4 months, Garry Milward, the head coach of GB Senior A. Garry, good afternoon and welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Good afternoon.
I want to start with a bit of a personal story from you because when we spoke after one of our training camps at Silverwing Lake, I asked you about your favorite race of all time. And you came back with a very specific answer. You said 500 meters, 2016, Nottingham. What's so special about that race?
As from a club, it was a very dominant race. We were very much in control from the off. We were trying to get a record. We didn't hit the record that we'd set, but we won it. We won it well, and it's a great watch on video, I think.
Was it the Nationals in Nottingham?
Yes, there's quite a few. There are quite a few, but yeah, that's the one. The 2016 race is the one for me.
Actually, the 2,000 meter race was another really, really interesting one that caught my attention more than the 500 meters one because it was captioned the steer snapped in half and then they kept going. I've never seen something like that happen.
Yeah. That was that was at Nottingham. That was quite a race as well. They're all great races, but that was a good one. Yeah, we went round the last turn, and we had Typhoon. Remember, and Typhoon were quite. We'd been competing with them pretty much all year up to a point, and that was the day that we sealed everything that particular year. But as we went round the turn, our helmsman his steering arm broke, so that snapped in half. He wobbled around, sat down, and I remember we came out of the turn, and I was sat on seat 2 that day, and our drummer started talking to the front 2, and I'm there doing my work, and then all of a sudden I get into this conversation and it's like, what are we talking about? Come on, we've got work to do, and off we're going. And we're having this conversation, but it was about steering our boat, while the helmsman, he was getting his steering arm out, so he got that out, he grabbed a paddle off one of the paddlers on the back and then took it over with a paddle. But yeah, it was quite a race. We won that one as well, but it was a good race. Good race.
Garry, your trademark saying, so to speak, is will it make the boat go faster? You're famous for it. It's everywhere. It's on social media. It's in our training sessions. Is there anything you want to do to make the boat go faster?
Well, first off, that's I did actually nick that saying. If you Google it, it's about the GB Rowing 8, and it comes from them, and it's a book. It's some seminars that they've gone on to do, and it is about their journey to the Olympics. And one of the things that I've said for many years to my coaches when with GB is, will it make my boat go faster? This training, will it make my boat go faster? And it's something that I'll ask myself sometimes. So, if we're having, we've got Christmas coming up, so we are going to enjoy ourselves. We still got work to do, as we move forward. We don't want to be putting on 2 or 3 kilos to worry about those for the first 3 months. But what I really want people to think all the time is, will it make my boat go faster? And that's why I use it. It works for me.
Legend has it that one day you asked the crew to go without the seat pads just to save a few kilos. Is it true?
No, that's rubbish. That's rubbish. What I have done, what I did do last year, which might be a thing, is that there were some people that would turn up in quite heavy footwear, and one of the things that I did, I took my race shoes, the kit, I weighed it, and I then soaked it and weighed it again. And pretty much there's around 0.6 of a kilo difference between the two. So, the kit wet is 1.2 kilo. And that was the target I gave everybody, that your kit must be 0.6 of a kilo, because 1.2 kilos for everybody, that slows our boat down. So, that was all that was. But no, I've never said don't use seat pads. The only thing I think with seat pads in a race is they can go wrong. And if they go wrong, you're going to affect your ability to perform, which then affects the boat speed. Very minutely, but if it happens 2 or 3 times across the boat, then we could be in trouble. And I've been in some very, very tight races, especially in internationals.
Yeah, I think they had quite a few very, very tight races in the European Championship just now in Czech Republic as well. We lost or we won something in fractions of a second.
Yeah, there was one, and it makes for a great photo, and it is a good photo. But we lost. Well, we came 6th in a final, so technically we were last in that particular final. However, 0.52 of a second quicker, we would have got gold. And you think that's after 1 minute 50 of action, that all the boats are and they're all across the line together. But yeah, that was a good race.
If people have taken their shoes off, is what they got on the boat, would we have gotten the gold, would you say?
Who knows? Who knows?
You just said seat pads can go wrong. I've never heard of it. Can you expand on that? I mean, I never use a seat pad.
I mean, it's always from experience. So it's what I've seen happen with people, and where they go wrong is in the race if it starts moving. So if you're sat on the bench and you're doing your work or however you move, and that seat pad moves, if it then falls off and it's half on the seat, then that's not now doing the job that you wanted it to do. So to make you feel uncomfortable. If you think that now I'm uncomfortable because of that seat pad, then that's affecting your ability to perform at your utmost, because you're now thinking about something else and not so much the race. I had it with sunglasses as well. There's many things about sunglasses. But I always used to wear sunglasses because, one, the water coming up, they're not going to hit me. And also I don't like the bright lights. However, in 2011, we were practicing our turns for the European Championships. It was at competition. We're on the practice days. And we went into the first turn, and my sunglasses, I've never done it before, but I knocked them. So they came off my nose, but they were like half on, half off. But again, if that had been my first turn of a 2,000 meter race, then that's then going to affect me all that way around while I'm thinking about my sunglasses. So I'm not a great advocate of wearing sunglasses either, because they can go wrong as well.
So, from what I've gathered from all what Gary has said, I think you're a proponent of wearing as little as you should. No shoes, no sunglasses. Are we going to go for GP Speedos one point?
I've got some Speedos. Yeah, I always wear Speedos on the boat. Have you heard that one as well, Adrian? Have you?
Speaking of all the things that will make the boat go faster, power, technique, synchronicity, let's take them one at a time. How do you develop them? How do you find them? What's the most important in your view?
Um, I think not one thing is more important than any other, but you need them all to create you as an athlete. I think over the years, dragon boating. I mean, I've been dragon boating for a long time, but it was quite easy that you would be able to go to your club training. You'd be able to go on your O1, your outrigger. You just keep paddling, and you'll get really good and really strong. However, over the years, with all sport, strength training has become important. Your diet, as we get to learn more about what you eat, how you and what you do there, how much you drink, how much you sleep. I think all of those factors have a massive effect on you as an athlete. And then what you would then need is your strength and your fitness as a very strong foundation to then be an outstanding paddler. I mean, nobody does dragon boating for long and is a bad paddler. I think people do get, it is a sport that can talk to such a range of people, and they can all enjoy it and have some great, exciting racing. And then it's up to you then, if you go for that international level, that you want to perform against the best people in the world. And for us as a country, in our country, I think that it's extremely important that we work on everything to put us on par with those people, because we are a little bit behind, whereas 15-20 years ago we were one of the best in the world. So that's changed.
Speaking of comparing us to the rest of the world, there's one thing I noticed after moving to Hong Kong and I started paddling with local teams. Our techniques are very different from over here versus in the UK. And I personally had to make a lot of changes just to adjust to different stroke styles and techniques. And then makes me think, Adrian always says, you always mention about heights, your love for geometry, you love your triangles, your rectangles, and we've heard rumors says you even mentioned pi at one point.
Rectangles.
Yeah, can you explain on that?
Over the years, I've been involved with all different coaches. We always have to change what we do, otherwise, we'll always get the same results, all that kind of stuff. And it might be that, with me at the moment, I'm very much an advocate of having big shapes as you go into the water, get your paddle in the water, be able to use your stroke length as effectively as possible. When you're in the air, then you just need to be efficient, because in the air, that's our opportunity for a rest, to recoup before we need to put the work in as it goes into the water. And there are different schools. I mean, one of the things that I do, and one of the things that we've now got great ability to do with all social media and stuff, is look at different teams, what they do, what works for them. If you like, the Asian style is very different to what we've been doing, or what I've been doing, if you like. I've played with it in my O1. I've developed that technique. It is something that I can do. It is quick, but we have to accommodate what is best for our boat. And again, will it make my boat go faster? So that's what I'll do, and I'll work with the athletes that we've got. And at the moment, for me, what we're doing is the right way forward.
And I heard that you have this obsession, not obsession. You, you really don't like people who don't get enough height. What does it mean by height? Because I have never trained with Gary myself.
Right. The height is just where we set off and start our stroke from. So I've always got this thing that if we are in a good position at the front of the stroke, then everything else should be delivered from that position. So we aim at shoulder height. So the strokes would aim at the top of the drum. Everyone else has to be at shoulder height. So that's where I'm looking for. It's shoulder height in a very strong position. If we think about a press up, that is my shoulder height. So I'd want my paddle at that position as we then drop in, roll onto our hands, press, and come through. So yeah, the height is very important.
You mentioned a little earlier things that you see nowadays on social media, etc., but nothing compares to stuff you see in real life at the international events. And you've been to quite a few. Can you tell us something that you've seen picked up at international events and you thought that actually might be worth trying here at home?
And the back of the stroke, actually using all of the if you like, the area that we've got the ability to push the boat forward. And what we've developed, if you like, is that we get the paddle in very quickly, we lock onto the water, we pull the boat to a position, but then we just need a little push at the back. So we talk about a spring. So you grab the water, lock on, go through your stroke, and right before you're about where you think you've normally finished is press again to then come out for your recovery. So it's just gaining an extra 20, 50, 30 centimeters of extra work each person. So that's something we've been working on.
That's very different, like, from what I've learned in Asia. In Asia, they really want you to get out as early as possible because they have this really strong belief that as soon as your paddle go past, not even your hip, maybe somewhere between your hip and your knees, it's wasted energy. It's not bringing the boat anywhere. And you clearly is like what you're saying is like it is doing something. And I've heard people argue on like if you look at a sprint canoe, they do a lot of their strokes in the negatives. So what's your view on that?
I think first off, you've got to have a high rotation of stroke to be able to just work with a short stroke. You've got to be able to do lots and lots of them within that minute that we're striving for. I feel that if you are fit enough and of build to be able to do it, then potentially that might be the faster way. Asian, the teams that I've always tended to look at would be Germany, and it would always be Canada. Those are the people that I've always looked at. Of course, we've then got Australia and America, but all of those people that I'm looking at are pretty much slightly bigger or the same build as what we are. When you then look at the Asian teams, they tend to be a little bit smaller than what we are and a little bit, less wide and all those kind of things. The other thing with the Chinese team is that they can all still smoke and drink beer between races. We can't do that. That's not something that we would do. So there are many differences. But I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying mine is right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what makes my boat go faster at this particular point in my mind.
So I bet what you're saying is there would be an optimal stroke dependent on how the athletes on the boat is built.
Yeah. I it's not one size fits all, as it were. I don't believe that.
How do you find that optimal stroke, Gary? Because there's one sweet spot where the athletes produce maximum power for a given stroke rate. And as you said, we can't go Asian. Maybe we're not as strong as other teams, big as Germans or Canadians. How do you find that sweet spot that you want to aim for?
I think If we were to think of technology and what we can get now, I think Merlin years ago used to have a paddle that would measure your wattage, and it would measure the speed that you were able to create. I think if that was something that we could have and it was accessible, I think that would help us develop the, if you like, the ultimate stroke. I think many wise men, many wise women over the years have looked for that particular, this is the silver bullet. I don't think there is one. I just think it'd be whatever suits us. But we need the technology now to be able to help us with that. And the racing is so close that, to anything we could do that would make it possible to find that would be good. I think if we look at Canada, they spend a lot of time in the winter not on the water, but then they've got those big like rowing tubs, but they've got paddle tubs. We haven't even got many rowing tubs, let alone paddling tubs. So that again is something that for us we would need to develop that ultimate stroke for us, I think. And if we could get the coaches, there is one of the. If we could get the coaches fully paid and expensed, so that I could pack in my normal job, that would be fantastic. We could do that as well.
You answered my question before I even got a chance to ask it, because I know you're a fan of Formula One, which is packed with technology. And I always wondered how come dragon boating, which has been around for many years, technology hasn't quite caught up with all the developments. And in racing so close, half a second for the top 6 teams, any tiny advantage, be it aerodynamic or otherwise, certainly helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that will come. We have to start pushing the rules, don't we? Push the rules to make them adapt to what's coming. I think that a lot of our rules are still very, they were written many years ago, and we're not allowing the stuff to come in. Maybe I don't think.
So basically, think of another question we might have asked you in earlier. Adrian asked you when he filmed you earlier in Silverwing. If you can change one rule on that note, what would you change?
I think there's many rules that are a little bit, and I think things can be made up at events to suit the event, all the people that are running the event. I would never criticize, officials or anything like that, because they do a very special job for us all so that we could race. But I think that the one that I said at that time was the rule that if you're within all the internationals where you got the age groups, the senior A helms person or a senior B or senior C has to be of that age or above, but the drummer can be any age. I think that's one thing that should change, that the helms don't necessarily need to be the age of that. Then that broadens it up a little bit. That would be the only one that I would immediately say that's got to change. I mean, there are things that we're not allowed to measure the speed in a race. Rowers, they get to work on stroke rates. We don't. We can have the stuff in training. It's very much a rowing tool that you put into a dragon boat, but then you can start working with different rates and efforts. But then you've got nothing really to measure the effort. It's only, you're not seeing what your wattage is because we haven't got those things. There is a paddle erg that you can use, but unfortunately, as we all do, what we try and do is, because we use, especially in this country, we've used the paddle erg over many years as a measuring tool for that person to see how good they are in dragon boating, but we don't necessarily use it as a mass training tool. So what people will then do is that you will make that paddling erg give you a better score than if it were your dragon boat
A
or
real
your own
boat.
one. Yeah, and you paddle it to make it cover the distance quicker, but you don't really look at your your technique so much on that. I don't think as you would in a dragon boat.
You're coaching both the Senior A, GB, and amateurs. What's the difference between coaching a club and coaching at national level?
First off, I don't really coach at amateurs. I mean, that would be Dave Bangs that would do that. We do, when I'm out with the boat, we will interact with each other, and I've done a couple of sessions there, but it's very much Dave's club, and he'll do the training. When I was at Worcester, I used to be involved with that a little bit, but I've run my own teams before in the past. I think the thing with international is that over the years as well, with the experience, you can really drive it home how difficult it is, how great it is, because it's an amazing process, an amazing feeling. You can, the emotions over 4 or 5 days of competition are massive, and we've had some great success. We were world champions in Hungary, which was just amazing. We've been European champions, but we've also been disqualified. We've come last, and those are the painful ones. But you remember those as equal as the good ones. But as regards to difference between club and international, I think that club, you have to be able to adapt to somebody that's never dragon boated before, right up to those elite athletes that we have.
I was going to mention going out to Asia this year and speaking to several of the local crews. It turns out that in some countries, the club that wins the league effectively becomes a national team. And I was wondering, what's your view on that?
I've not massively got a view. If it works for them, then that's a good thing. I've been fortunate enough to be with amateurs for some years in some very dominant times that we had. I mean, we won the league for every year. We were winning it. The races were good, and it was different kind of racing for us. It was. And it's not being disrespectful to anybody else that we raced against, but it was, at that point, it was more about, for me, dealing with the effort that you needed to do to hit that performance. However, latter years, it's been that we have we lost a few people, we've gained new people, those people are being brought on. We went through our dip, we've then come out of that dip. We're now in fierce, horrible races. You finish the race and it's like a near-death experience, but they're proper good races. But you can't really think about how you're managing those races. You can't do that. So I think if you've got a club, if your club then becomes your national team, that you are potentially limiting your ability to perform at your best. Some of the Asian teams, I know, we went to Thailand a few years ago. The Thai team, it's a naval team, so they're enlisted sailors and they are dragon boating. Now, how much dragon boating they do when they've got a great big complex and it's full of dragon boats, who knows? It's going to be more than what we would do. China, they're the Chinese team. They form a marching line. They march down to their warm-ups. There's one person running the warm-ups. It looks like an army team. So again, that's going to be different to what we would be. I think going back to amethyst, when we did a club cruise championships, and Dave had picked some of the better paddlers, if you like, from other teams, and we formed an open team, and we went as amethyst. This was to France a few years back, and we got thumped, and we were some of the best paddlers in the country, I would say. We weren't the national team, but we were very, very quick. But we got thumped when we went there. We didn't have. We got into final on the 500s, but the 2,000 meter and the 200 meter, we weren't in the frame there. So whilst it works for some, it can't work for everyone.
Yeah, I think I can really echo on Gary on that, because I just came back from Club Crew in Ravenna, and I'm not from the team itself that went there myself, and I got recruited to go there with them. And whilst we're training, we're like so hopeful. We're like, yeah, we're doing pretty good, because that felt so much better than the normal club boat on a BDA race. But while you're there, you just get to see how big the world is, how fast, mainly the Canadians, how fast the Canadians are. And speaking of Canadians, and it's just the mere size of them they're huge, they're strong, but they're incredibly fast in the water as well, and that's insane. That was eye-opening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we always laugh and joke when we stand in the pens, and we have some big guys in our senior A team now. Some good, strong blokes that are 6'3", 6'4". But they're still looking up at some of the Germans, and they're looking down at us, and there is that. But we did beat Germany in Czech, so I was pretty chuffed with that. Pretty chuffed. There are some big guys around, and ladies.
When I was over there, I saw some ladies. They are so big. They were just casually doing pull-ups on the side of the tent, 15 of them. And then they are bigger than some of our male paddlers, and that was scary. But that's one thing I picked up on when I was actually, we were in the Marshallese area, and we stood next to a team from Hong Kong, and I happened to understand what they're saying. So I don't know if it was a coach or whoever that's leading the team, was telling them, well, you look at everyone else, because you have Hungarians that tend to be really big, the Germans are huge, and he was telling them, well, look at them, they are really big, but no, look at the one next to you, which is us from the UK. They are not as big, they are the same size, and you can do it just like they do it. So at the end of the day, it's not just all about size, I have to say.
And one of the things we had from Czech, which was, I really liked that. The Germans, we were, we always seem to come up against Germany, and it was quite. And over the years, they've not even, they wouldn't even bother looking at us, kind of thing. It's like, but in Czech, they actually came over and they were amazed, and that we'd made such leaps and stuff, and it's not just one person that's done that; it's all the athletes and stuff. But yeah, it was good competition for us there, and I think it put us on a good level playing field for everybody. It's good.
Now, Kat, we sent Garry a little earlier a little video of yourself in Ravenna, with a kind request if you could look at it and give you some feedback. So this is our paddle clinic.
And there is an overtaking now in the last meters.
Oh, that's a great finish coming up.
Number 6 on number 2. So number 6 makes some noise from them. The last strokes for them.
Racing team.
They're
right.
Buy some golf clubs.
Buy some clubs, did you say?
It was a joke. I said buy some golf clubs, but that was a joke. Right. Okay, so it's a good stroke. I like it. There's a few opportunities for us to be a bit faster. The one thing that I would say to start off with, the height is there. I probably would ask for a little bit more rotation at the front so we can get a little bit higher as we go on. One thing that you do is push your top hand forward very quickly, so you go quite negative, so we're not holding on to what I would call the sweet spot for too long. And the main thing that I would try and stop is that you're starting to pull back through your power phase before all of your paddles in the water. So get it in quick and then move. That would be my thing. Not in and moving back. So it will be a little bit before you're actually got all of your paddle doing all of the work in the water. But it's a good stroke. I like it. It's very consistent. So yeah, good stuff.
I was about to have a nervous breakdown. And in my defense, that was towards the end of a 2K. That was 10 minutes into a 2K race. So,
I was going to... One of the caveats I would have said is I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know. I presume it's a small boat. That I didn't know if it was a small boat. Yeah, I didn't know if it was a small boat, a big boat at the beginning of the race, in the middle, at the end, or what distance it was. But it's a very consistent stroke. But there's some opportunities that to make you faster and make the boat go faster. And you don't need to buy golf clubs. That was a joke.
just a question. Are those golf clubs meant to smash Adrian's head? Because he sent you my video.
Well, I had to make a choice. I made a difficult choice. So I had to choose between two videos. One was in training, where you were doing row by row. And when you do row by row, you naturally go 120%. And the second one was near the end of 2000, where all your training goes away and you just do what you normally do. So I thought it made perfect sense to send that one.
I mean, I did cheat a little bit. I had another video that was after we'd gone up in rate in the last bit of the 2000 meters, and I didn't send that one. That was just right before that. I was like, nah, let's not look at the one that we went up in the rate, because it's not going to look very pretty. I guess before we end this podcast, we have one little other segment that we would like Garry to do, which we will actually ask every single guest that's attending our podcast to do, is for you to leave a question for the next guest without knowing who they are going to be, and they're going to answer it in the next podcast when they come on.
Do they wear Speedos?
That is actually a really good question, given that we know who the next guests are.
Garry, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast and be our first guest. We're thrilled to have you, the person that actually said what makes the boat go faster, to be on our first show of the whole series.
Yeah, thank you.
Ripples dance where the sunrise bleeds. Our journey flows where the river leads. Echoes of laughter fill the air. Chatterbox secrets everywhere.